General Hospital spoilers reveal that Kristina is spiraling deeper into a crisis, where the consequences of her impulsive actions are not only affecting others but also beginning to tear her apart from the inside. One of the most striking characteristics of this phase is the complex psychological shift that is building up and gradually exploding, leaving her unable to control her emotions, logic, or even herself. The seemingly harmless revenge plan, which was supposed to help Kristina right the wrongs done by Ava, has now become the spark for a horrific accident, with the victim being someone she never intended, Rick. Rick, who had no part in the conflict and was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, is now lying unconscious in the hospital, between the fragile line of life and death. And the most painful part is, Kristina knows very well that she is the cause of it all, though she did not directly cause the collision. Her act of sabotaging the car, initially targeting Ava, set off the chain of tragic events. It is no longer just a mistake. It is a sin. An obsession. A burden. Inside Kristina, a storm is brewing. She cannot forgive herself. The painful and angry look from Molly stabs at her heart every time they cross paths. Molly doesn't have to say much, the emotions in her eyes speak for everything. To Molly, Kristina is not only the one who sabotaged a surrogacy plan, but now she is the one who put her father in harm's way. These obsessions start to sink into Kristina silently but powerfully. She feels like everyone is turning away from her, and that she is the one blamed for everything. And the most dangerous part, she starts to believe she deserves all the hatred. She withdraws, becomes quieter, says less, and carries an ever-growing burden of guilt. Kristina is no longer herself, she is a twisted version of herself, dragged down by her impulsive mistakes. But these psychological adjustments don't stop at emotional pain. They begin to manifest in action. Kristina may become reckless, trying to make amends by doing things that cross boundaries. Or worse, she might fall into a state of negative rebellion, breaking every boundary just because she can't find a way out. A new shock, whether it's a worse development in Rick's condition or public rejection from her family, will be the breaking point, causing her to explode. This explosion will not only affect Kristina, but it will also push the Davis family dynamic to the brink of collapse. Alexis may try to protect her daughter. But can she fight off the wave of criticism from Molly and others? Will she choose her daughter or justice? And while everyone is torn apart by sorrow, Kristina may quietly disappear, or worse, fall into a deep psychological pit with no escape. The trouble Kristina faces is no longer the result of a mistake, but the consequence of a chain reaction of unhealed emotions. Wounds that have never been addressed, and pains that have never been understood. And when all of these come together, they will not only create a crisis, but an emotional explosion that threatens to drown everything Kristina has tried to protect: family, trust, and even herself. Port Charles has witnessed many mistakes, many acts of redemption. But this time, with Kristina, the question is, can she save herself before it's too late? Or will she be overwhelmed by the very aftermath of the storm she accidentally created? Molly is at a pivotal moment in her life, not only as a daughter but also as a strong, intelligent woman who refuses to let those she loves be hurt any longer. After the serious accident that left Rick in critical condition, Molly seems to awaken from any belief that her family can heal on its own with love and forgiveness. She is no longer patient enough to stay silent or stay out of it. This time, she will stand up and protect her father with everything she has: her intellect, her loyalty, and her determination. While doctors are still monitoring every change in Rick's comatose condition, Molly begins using every legal relationship, information channel, and personal influence to ensure the incident is not swept under the rug or treated as an ordinary accident. She wants the truth, from witness testimonies, surveillance data, and hospital records, and what she discovers leaves her unable to stay calm. Kristina was the one who sabotaged the car. Although Kristina's original target was Ava, not Rick, Molly can no longer accept any excuses. In her eyes, Kristina acted selfishly and thoughtlessly, and now she must be held responsible for the serious consequences she caused. What's worse is that this isn't the first time Kristina has made emotional decisions that led to mistakes. In her anger and pain, Molly starts to look back at the past. The times Kristina acted impulsively, the times she caused chaos within the family, and the cracks that were never really healed between them. But this time is different. This is no longer a sibling argument, it is the line between life and death. Molly looks at her father, lying unconscious among a web of life support machines, feeling utterly helpless. And all those emotions are funneled directly onto Kristina like a sharp blade. She begins to openly criticize Kristina, even considering taking the case to court if Rick's condition worsens. For Molly, forgiveness is no longer an option, not when the person she loves is paying with his life. Meanwhile, Kristina is also in a state of deep panic. The haunting thought that she may be the cause of Rick, who once protected her as a child, never waking up again is starting to completely unravel her. She tries to explain, apologize, and seek a chance for forgiveness, but Molly's cold and determined gaze shuts down every door of hope. She feels abandoned, pushed away from her family, and from there. The anger bottled up inside Kristina begins to form, slowly transforming into feelings of rebellion and defiance. The two sisters, once close and loving, now stand on opposite sides. Molly represents justice, order, and responsibility. Kristina is the embodiment of emotion, instability, and now, guilt. Their relationship is no longer about misunderstandings that can be healed with a few apologies. This is a battle over morals, right versus wrong, and trust that has been shattered too many times. Alexis, the mother caught in the middle, is now feeling powerless. She tries to maintain peace, tries to hold the family together. But when one daughter is praying by her father's bedside and the other is drowning in guilt and sorrow, her efforts seem to vanish into thin air. The Davis family, once one of the most stable homes in Port Charles, is now on the brink of collapse, and at the center are her two daughters, once her pride. Port Charles has never witnessed an internal confrontation as deep and heavy as this. The battle between Molly and Kristina is no longer about an accident, but about honor, family, and wounds that have never healed. If there is no timely intervention, if no miracle happens to wake Rick up to give his final say, things may never go back to the way they were. The question now is not just who is right or wrong. The real question is, can love still save these two broken souls from hatred? Or will this battle mark the end of a sisterhood that was once so sacred? Molly is facing a huge turning point when she unexpectedly receives a cryptic proposal from Ava, who was at the center of the rage that led to the tragic accident that nearly cost Rick his life. Though the proposal has not been made openly clear, it carries an ominous, calculated energy, suggesting a completely different path for Molly, one with no room for patience or leniency. As Molly sinks deeper into her anger and despair, Ava appears like a cold breeze, understanding and empathetic but also cunning. Ava doesn't need to say much, just emphasize that Kristina has crossed the line, that forgiveness only weakens justice, and that sometimes the most hurtful need to take justice into their own hands. Molly, already obsessed with the image of Rick unconscious and the silence from Kristina, begins to waver. It seems Ava is awakening in her an extreme defensive instinct. A rage that has been suppressed for too long and is now ready to surface. At the same time, Molly's psychological adjustments are shifting powerfully. She is no longer the patient younger sister, the calm lawyer. She is becoming colder, more direct, and more dangerous. A new shock is rising, as she herself feels that forgiveness is not only unnecessary but weak. The obsession with the fact that Kristina has broken every moral boundary, jeopardizing her father's life, is now being fueled by the unseen support of Ava. Molly is no longer avoiding it. She begins to plan a real attack, both legally and emotionally, squarely targeting Kristina. Under the guise of wanting justice for Rick, Molly is dangerously approaching the line of cruelty. She could reopen the entire incident, demand a criminal investigation, publicly accuse Kristina, or worse, drag anyone who ever defended Kristina into the light to prove she no longer deserves protection. The story is becoming more insane than ever. No one expected Molly, once seen as the symbol of reason and fairness, to be the one calling for the harshest punishment for her own sister. But with her unhealed pain, the undeniable betrayal, and a subtle provocation from Ava, everything is pushing Molly to the breaking point, where all emotions, logic, and humanity could be consumed by the rage. If Molly continues down this path, she may not only lose Kristina, but also herself. But will anyone be clear-headed enough to stop her? Or will poor Charles witness a ruthless confrontation between the two sisters, where justice, family, and the past are nothing but broken pieces in the battle of deeply wounded souls? Molly, as a strong-willed and principled prosecutor, now faces the greatest decision of her life, and no one could have predicted that the one she would charge would be her own sister, Kristina. After the horrific accident that nearly took Rick's life, combined with the revelation that Kristina was the one who sabotaged the car, even though her initial target was Ava, Molly believes Kristina's reckless actions amount to manslaughter, or even premeditated murder. This is no longer a sibling argument. This is a legal and moral battle shaking Port Charles to its core. As a prosecutor, Molly not only represents the legal system but also stands as a symbol of justice. She believes no one, not even family, can escape responsibility for the consequences of their actions. In her fury, pain, and determination to seek justice for her father, Molly officially signs the indictment against Kristina for intentionally causing harm leading to serious injury, opening the possibility of manslaughter or murder charges if Rick does not survive. This decision sends shockwaves not only through the legal community but also through the Davis family itself. Alexis, the mother of both, finds herself torn in an unprecedented emotional struggle. As a lawyer, she understands Kristina's actions were dangerous and cannot be overlooked. But as a mother, she cannot stand by and watch her child, whom she bore and raised, be pushed by her own sister into the courtroom. The pressure on Alexis becomes unbearable. If she sides with Kristina, she hurts Molly. If she stays silent, she loses both. The explosion of this story doesn't stay contained within the family. Port Charles begins to fracture. The public, the media, friends, and even influential political figures begin voicing differing opinions. One side claims Molly is abusing her power for personal reasons, while the other believes she is doing the right thing, that the law should not be influenced by blood ties. Amid this media storm, Molly remains resolute, becoming colder, sharper, and more determined than ever. She is no longer the gentle girl of the past, she is a prosecutor willing to sacrifice emotion for the sake of justice. Meanwhile, Kristina is pushed to the brink. Facing serious charges and being ostracized by her own family, she falls into a deep psychological crisis. All the regret, pain, and self-reproach now turn into a terrifying loneliness she cannot share with anyone. Kristina doesn't just feel like a criminal, she feels like the abandoned child, the sister viewed as a stain on Molly's life. The story is no longer about an accident, but a tragic confrontation between two worlds, justice and family, law and blood, anger and remorse. And in between these two worlds, Alexis may be the first to be crushed if she cannot find a way to reconcile before everything falls apart. Port Charles is about to witness a trial that will not only determine guilt, but also the future of an entire family. And with Molly determined to see it through, while Kristina is utterly drained. Is there any miracle that could save these two souls before they disappear from each other's lives forever? TJ returns to Port Charles at the most sensitive moment, when Molly is under intense emotional strain, angry, and completely out of control after the horrific accident that left Rick in critical condition. But TJ's return does not bring the healing many hoped for. Instead, he brings with him a big secret. A new piece of the truth that could change everything, and put his relationship with Molly and Kristina on the verge of collapse. TJ has witnessed or learned something important about Kristina. Perhaps during the time Molly was falling apart after her loss, Kristina confided in TJ, sharing deep secrets, maybe about the baby she once carried for someone else, the pressure she faced, or even her plan to get revenge on Ava, something Kristina might have thought was just a passing comment. But TJ has kept that secret until now. Now, As Molly uses all of her power as a prosecutor to charge Kristina with criminal responsibility for the accident that harmed Rick, TJ must make a difficult choice. Protect Molly and stand by the legal side, or reveal the secret Kristina entrusted to him and pursue what he believes is justice, a necessary forgiveness for the deep wounds. The truth TJ carries is a ticking time bomb. And it's this that makes Molly's actions and emotions more intense than ever. Molly cannot accept that the man who once loved her, who had been through so much with her, is now hesitating, even possibly planning to defend the person she considers a murderer, her own sister. The rift between Molly and TJ begins with quiet arguments, but soon erupts into heated confrontations, where Molly is no longer the lover but the cold prosecutor, ready to strike anyone who dares stand in her way of finding justice for Rick. Meanwhile, TJ, once a compassionate man, now becomes more resolute in demanding that the truth be seen from all sides, even from Kristina's perspective. He knows Kristina was wrong, but he also understands the damage she's endured. And that if she is pushed too hard, the entire Davis family may never heal. Kristina, caught in the chaos, is almost paralyzed by the brutal situation. Her only sister is publicly pushing her into the legal system, and the person who once gave her emotional support, TJ, is now locked in a fierce conflict with Molly. Kristina feels torn between two worlds. One side is her responsibility for her mistake, and the other is the fear of being completely abandoned. The haunting memories of the accident, the self-reproach, and the sense of being the family destroyer have pushed her to the brink of a severe psychological breakdown. The story is spiraling out of control. TJ, with what he knows, could collapse Molly's entire legal effort if he steps forward as a witness to Kristina's psychological state, her lack of intent. But if he does that, he will lose Molly's love, trust, and possibly their future together. If he stays silent, he betrays his own medical ethics, the trust Kristina placed in him, and his own conscience. Port Charles is witnessing a fierce underground battle like never before, not between good and evil, but between justice and the human heart. A daughter fighting for her father with all her anger and power, a man carrying a truth that could save one but lose everything, and a girl gradually losing herself in isolation, fear, and guilt. In this context, even the smallest shift could lead to a major turning point. And if no one steps forward to bridge the gap, this crisis will not only tear apart a family, but may also strip three young people, once bound by love and unity, of their trust, torn apart by guilt, anger, and the truth left unspoken.